Glasses up, fellas. Cheers. Today we're drinking something a little bit different. This is by Dasani. It's a club soda, if you will. It's seltzer water.
Ooh, bubbly goodness.
I have a Krav Maga class after this, and so it's summertime. Shooting schedule gets kind of crazy, and I really don't feel like having a belly full of scotch and then having to fight a mannequin. So, which sounds like a great 80s plot, if you ask me. By the way, what do you think of the seltzer water? I love this stuff.
It's crisp, refreshing.
I love the bubbles. I just love bubbles.
Yeah, it's like the
great hangover drink, I think.
A hangover drink. A favorite of people that are recovering alcoholics because you can order it at a bar. And it's like water, only better. Little hint of lime taste in there.
Yeah, tastiness.
Sold wherever fine beverages are sold. Today we're reviewing Revolution by Murder, which has a very interesting assassination plot for Henry Clay Frick. But when you think he was a kid, do you think Frick was a substitute for the F word back then?
Yeah.
Like he got made fun of?
I'm pretty sure at least once in his life someone said, "Hey, Frick," and then popped him. What would look at him? And he said, What the frick? Derek, what did you think of this book about assassination? In the beginning it was interesting.
Intriguing.
And then we got to the middle where the assassination attempt occurs, and there are still 3 or 4 more chapters, and I was like, what is this book about? That pretty much says it.
Let me interject here. The Kindle single market is very interesting because we've read quite a few of these Kindle singles, and I think part of the problem is there's this expectation that a Kindle single needs to be 50 to 100 pages long, and sometimes you maybe shut it down at about 50. No need to press on.
Really?
This is just a little background on this book. This is a kind of a unique historical time, the era of all the big steel in Chicago, right?
This is Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh, yeah, but it's kind of this big industrial.
The Gilded Age.
The robber barons versus the working people.
Yeah. 6 hours a day, or I'm sorry, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day was the typical steel worker hours, working by these giant furnaces. It was dangerous. It was.
And they give a number. It was like 35,000 people died.
Americans a year. Yeah.
Is that for real?
Yeah, that's for real. Probably. Well, yeah, about 35,000 a year.
That's a lot.
Which I think this was the job back then, right? I mean, it wasn't.
That was just, I think, steel factories. I don't even think that was all
the rest.
jobs. So think about
Yikes.
everything else, railroad workers, all that kind of stuff that went along with steel. Probably even more people.
And the steel mill that they're talking about in this book is particularly making armor for Navy ships, right? Mm-hmm. That was they would coat them with this steel. I think we're still kind of, a lot of the weapons technology was still cannonballs and stuff like that. This steel made a nice armor and this and that. So the Frick is one of the big guys kind of running this whole scene, and a little bit of problems in the mill. People start to revolt. You are the history studies guy.
The history buff.
Tell us about this era and why this time is important.
I mean, this is a real contentious time period in American history. I think it was a big flashpoint. It's like industrialization had been happening now for about 100 years. Started over in England and then it came to America, and America just went running with it. And so labor and stuff just got so advanced, and technology got so advanced, but you had all these people working in these really dangerous factories, working super long hours, like you said, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, sometimes 16 to 18. So it was people were fighting against the big corporations who were trying to squeeze every dollar out of these manufacturing processes and make the most profit. And then you have all these laborers, these poor working class people who are getting paid, dime per day or, $1 a day to work in these things. And so they were suffering, and so they start forming unions, trying to collectivize and have this collective bargaining with the corporations so that they could have, some kind of voice and try and change the way things were going. And that's what we kind of see in this book, is that clash between the amalgamated Iron Workers or Steel Workers Union and Henry Clay Frick, who is He took over for Andrew Carnegie, Carnegie Steel.
Hold on one second. Brief pause.
Uh-huh.
So there's a little bit of contention on how you say Andrew's last name.
I say them both ways.
So I say Carnegie.
I say Carnegie.
But on,
you just say Carnegie.
On NPR, they say this
Carnegie
was brought to you by the Carnegie Foundation.
Yeah, that's
so.
I don't know.
Okay, just curious. So it could go
I say
either
both
way.
ways.
Okay.
Depends on when I'm saying just Carnegie, I say Carnegie. But when I'm saying Andrew Carnegie, I say Carnegie. It's weird.
But there's only one way to say frick.
It's true.
Frick.
Yeah, this book kind of centers around the plot to kill Frick because of all this turmoil.
Backlash.
And he's kind of the target because Carnegie's in Europe. He's just collecting money, like stupid amounts of money, like one of the richest men.
He's won the monopoly.
Yeah, and so Frick's kind of in charge, working with these steel mills, and this is kind of like when communism was really getting some roots in the States. People were coming over from other countries, which kind of as a side thought, I think it's really weird that this book centers on a communist, or it's two communists. Anarchists, basically. Or, yes. But they came from Russia. And then came here and was like, "This is not right." I was thinking, like
it sucks here.
Yeah,
Russia was so much better.
You don't really have a leg to stand on. Derek, what did you think of there's a couple in this book, and they kind of had a unique relationship to get to where they needed to do this assassination. What did you think about all that?
Goldman and Berkman. Berkman. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just struck me as a couple of poor, want to change the world, young people, and it's just a wild plot. Let's kill Frick. And I don't know. I mean, what else is there to say other than that? I mean, they're two Russian. They're both Russian, correct? No, he's Russian. Was she Russian? I didn't catch that.
I don't remember.
It's from some place that's just like Russia that may have had a different name. Probably a political dictator.
Area.
So American right now. I love it. No, I mean, I will say this. So their plot, it was like, yes, let's kill Frick.
Did you forget his name?
Henry Clay Frick, right?
Oh, Frick, yeah.
Okay, I want to call him Alexander Frick, but that's not correct. Let's kill him. And that will, that'll give a voice to the voiceless steel workers. We'll revolutionize, and we're just gonna be crazy. But the one thing that really struck me, on a non-serious note, obviously, is this girl got around, man. She was just jumping from guy to guy to guy. Literally, it was like, she was eating in this diner after leaving her loveless marriage, and then she saw a short guy, and that was Berkman. And then it was like, and then she borrowed something from a previous lover to give to Berkman for the assassination attempt. And then it's like, wait, what? Anyway.
And she tried to prostitute herself to help him. And then she ends up, and the guy's like, you haven't been doing this very long, have you? And she's like, no, this is my first time.
Yeah, the John that met her was
he's like,
you with this?
Look, here's just $10. He gives her money for nothing. And she's like, all right, whatever.
Dude, so basically,
money
for nothing. You just gotta work.
And she's for free.
They talked about how she made her prostitute outfit, which was like, she put on like stockings. I guess the ladies' silk stockings they had back then, and then
she went down to the store. She bought like lace, went back up to her apartment, made her undergarments, and then went out. It's like that's something.
Prostituting has come a long way in 100 years.
Believe you me.
Victoria's Secret, buy the stuff and then just get on with it,
So there's a weird
get on with it,
The weird thing about this is she was basically prostituting to get some money so that he could buy a revolver
and a suit.
And a suit, yeah. You got to look the part to get into the man's office because she was looking the part. You know what I'm saying? There you go. But the weird thing is kind of what their ideology was. All that was morally acceptable, like, and maybe that's how that goes.
Support the means is what she says. Right?
But it's like, I guess if you're okay with like, murder's okay. So
no, murder's not okay.
Well, sort of.
In the book,
we're not murderers.
Anarchists, they don't believe in murder. But they do believe in revolutionary assassination. So if you're killing somebody that's oppressing people or doing that, then it's okay. because then you're helping people rise up and defeat the evil. But if you're just murdering somebody, that's not cool.
That's wrong.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
wrong.
That's not cool, bro.
Yeah. But they build up Frick as like this family man, you know, he had like this, he had a really hard life, like his wife lost her kids, like
she miscarried 2 kids or something like that.
Little boy died,
yeah.
and miscarried 2 kids, and like, and you know, it was just kind of tragic. She was like depressed and in bed all the time, and he was just like, it was interesting. And he was just married to his work, and that's why he was obsessed with it.
So the big kind of there's this political plot of how do they get to Frick, and these immigrants are trying to look. They get the suit so they can go in there, and like he goes to meet Frick, and I don't know if you guys have ever done phone sales. I did phone sales for a number of years. Otherwise, there's no, you just call up and like, I'd like to speak to the man in charge. And go, who are you? Like, my name's Dan. I'm calling from this company trying to sell you something, and it's just silence and everything. Yeah. And so it's funny to me that he like went through all this hassle, get the weapon, barely get enough money to travel down to Pittsburgh, and then kind of the audacity that he thought he was just going to show up and be like, oh, right this way, good sir. Come on into our president's office. And
at the time, he's like the most hated man in America. Like,
and
on top of that, he's got this Homestead steel factory that he built a 12-foot wall around with barbed wire with holes in it so they could stick rifles through to shoot the people who are striking at this factory. And like all these people have guns, and he's sending in these Pinkerton guards to go and fight them, and then you think you can just walk into his office and talk to him?
Yeah, and the funny thing was, he didn't even know what Frick looked like. He had to go to like this, I think it was like a periodical newspaper thing and like pretend to be a rich guy looking at pictures, and we're like, I'd like to see your crispest picture of Mr. Frick, please. And like, it's like, oh, that's what it looks like.
Before Wikipedia, I guess.
Oh yeah, before the internet. I mean, how did you do assassinations? Did you just know? You just have to guess?
You just would know.
You just had to know. Here's some guy describe it. Like, he's about this tall.
Yeah, he's a short guy running the joint. You might see him sitting behind the big desk. Yeah. So there's this kind of political plot to get him there to get the deed done, and then he basically misses the opportunities. He can't see him. Then he goes to, I think it was an office building, right? And he's like, sees Frick like from a distance. He goes to meet him, and basically almost bumps into him coming out of the stairs, and like in this moment has this like panic, like couldn't get to his gun, just kind of flubbed it, and he was a determined anarchist, and kept going for the kill shot.
Kill shot.
He finally gets in the office, and then he gets his gun out, pulls it to shoot him,
Click.
and it clicks.
Because he only loaded it with 5 rounds or something, right?
Yeah. Like,
so
I think, he was 1 round short.
Yeah.
But you think...
So then a second shot actually shoots.
Like, right?
And
We're
then
gonna get one shot at this.
he gets up closer to shoot him again, and then like they get in a scuffle, and then
Well,
he ends up
there's somebody else in the
stabbing.
office.
Yeah, he stabs him a bunch of times. The other guy in the office grabs him, and then like the other people, like the carpenter that's working in the hallway, and some other working guy, a mailman or something, comes in and they tackle him and bring him down. So it's like ironic because here he is fighting for like the working class, and then the working class are the ones that subdue him.
Didn't think about that.
Yeah. And then on top of it, well, I think Emma Goldman says something about that.
Yeah.
And then also on top of that, like here Emma Goldman and him are like revolutionaries, and they're trying to get the working class to fight for their rights, and they think if they assassinate him that everybody's going to rise up and everything's going to be great, right? They're going to have their revolution. But then like the strikers and stuff, they all turn again. They're like, whoa, we want nothing to do with this. Like, we wouldn't have tried to assassinate him. We didn't plan this. So then he's this lone anarchist, and he's in jail talking to other strikers, and the guy's like, what are you in here for? And he's like, well, I tried to shoot Frick. And he's like, oh, like, why would you do that? Did you have a bad business deal with him? And he's like, no, I did it for you guys because you're striking. Like, get rid of the bad guy. Yeah. And they're like, oh no, we would
never do that.
You're crazy.
That's murder.
And so then it actually turned public opinion against the strikers. Like, all the strikers had public support because everybody's like, you know, they're suffering. Give them, better working conditions. And then all of a sudden, this guy tries to kill him, and now everybody's like, "Oh no, the strikers are crazy. We don't want anything." You know, and so it killed their whole strike. It took out all the momentum of their movement, and ended up having to settle.
So, just real quick interjection. Frick took this assassination like a boss. He got shot like, I want to say like in the ear, and it came out his neck, and he got shot. I think it like grazed his side or hit him in the shoulder or something.
Yeah, I think he got hit like In the neck and in the shoulder.
Yeah,
and his ear got grazed, I think, in one of the
He got
shots.
stabbed.
He got stabbed, but so the knife was a file, like not like your old nail file, like those big metal ones back then. And that's how you make knives. There's still people that do it, but it's like if you want to be an amateur blacksmith. My old man's into this. There's a whole YouTube channel of amateur blacksmiths. If you take a file, you heat it up, and you can basically sharpen the edges and get a nice point.
Oh my gosh.
So that
Why is your dad into that?
he lives in Texas.
Oh, okay.
That should be enough of a reason.
Files. Yeah, what else are you gonna do?
So it's a weird thing if he takes
A
these
prison
two.
shank.
He basically makes a prison shank, puts a wooden handle on it, then shoots it twice, fails, and then
Starts stabbing.
yes, goes stabbing, and then Frick is like, it's all done, and the police come in, and Frick tells him, don't shoot him. Let's let the court decide this. And Frick just kind of lays down, and they bring in a nurse. No, like, numbing agent.
Yeah.
They patch him up,
Sits at his desk.
signs some papers. He says, "Don't call my wife," because his wife was like sickly pregnant.
No, I think it just had their kid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
But it was
sorry.
like very
Miscarriage.
premature.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know if it was a miscarriage or not, but in any case, he's like, "Don't tell my wife. That'll push her over the edge." But yeah, and he sent a telegram to Carnegie, and he telegrammed someone else like, "Oh no, his mother shot twice, not serious," or something like that. Yeah, and so
I love the
classic.
The fact that a telegram shows zero emotion.
Yeah.
Okay, could you imagine if one of your mothers received like a text message that said
Shot
that as the
twice.
modern
That's
equivalent?
I know.
NBD. Hashtag YOLO.
Yes, absolutely. Hashtag YOLO. So yeah, Frick takes it like boss, and then as Bergman's getting arrested, he looks in his pocket and he kept this a nitroglycerin pill,
Yeah.
which I don't know where you get nitroglycerin back then. If the dude could hardly afford a suit and a pistol, there's just some spigot on the corner of like Main Street, like, here, nitroglycerin pill.
Get your nitro here.
And what he was gonna do was bite down on the pill and I guess make his head explode.
Yeah, that's what. Well, there was a Haymarket riots, which was another big strike, and what the person who had conspired to create the riot, and when they arrested him, that's what he did. He had a little nitroglycerin thing, bit on it, head blew up, injured like 2 or 3 of the guards that were there, and so he became the Haymarket martyr, they called him, because
so it's enough to take you and other people out.
Yeah,
just
but he was like a martyr though for the strike movement because he was a striker. He wasn't like an anarchist.
He was part of the movement.
Yeah. But that anarchy thing back then was pretty big.
Some serious business. Blow up your own head.
Yeah.
To take out other people. So he tries to bite down this pill, and they see it in his mouth, and then like pry his jaws open and
beat him a little bit, I'm sure.
Failed.
Yeah. They probably
so
took out like a monkey wrench or something like that. There's no camera.
Oh, there you see, I'm a wise guy, eh?
There was some dude built like a linebacker that just was like, he
Oil.
was like cracking his knuckles.
He likes these.
Yeah. So
the suspenders and pants up to his belly button. Oh, wise guy.
flicking the suspenders.
Yeah. That's all I think about. All right.
I would say once you get to the part where that happens in the book, there really isn't too much need to read further. I don't think you made it that far. Did you make it that far? How far did you make it?
Well, I made it through the murder attempt and the arrest.
Okay.
And then I fell asleep.
See, I found the after stuff interesting. Well, I mean, this is the history.
Well, tell me why you found it interesting. Because it seemed like, before we get it seemed like there was this big build-up of a really awesome assassination, which is what this book is about.
That
fails, which is still a very interesting story in itself.
Yeah.
But then where it goes from there, I felt like I was watching this action movie that just hit the brakes for the last 30, 40 minutes.
Have you seen the movie, like the cowboy movie that they made recently? Not 3:10 to Yuma, but something like that.
Cowboys and Aliens?
No, it was really critically acclaimed. True Grit.
Oh, the remake.
Yes.
True Grit. So, like, you know how True Grit, it has this awesome build-up, and then, spoiler alert, the girl gets injured or whatever, bit by a snake or something.
Yeah.
He's carrying her, and they get to, like, within range of the cabin, and you're like, you know, like, the movie's going to end right here. Like, is she going to be saved or what? And then it just kind of goes to black, and you're like, oh, that was the best movie ever. And then all of a sudden, then it goes, oh, this is what happened after. She survived and she lost her limb. And then these cowboys,
flash forward like 30, 40 years later.
And then it goes, the cowboys ended up dying, you know. And so it was just like, I was like, really? It just kind of ruined the movie. So it's kind of like that with this book, where how it gets up to that assassination scene, everything's awesome, and then you get the jail stuff, and then it just goes on with like, Emma Goldman ended up going to Europe, and then her life sucked, and she died, and then he ended up. But I found it interesting because I didn't know so much about Emma Goldman, and I didn't know about, because she's revered with like people who are all about rights and personal rights and stuff, and voting and all these other things, women's lib, you know, sexual liberation. There's all these different things that she's associated with. And so I didn't really know how she was involved with that. I just knew of her as this crazy anarchist who was not very attractive. So I was like, how is it that she's a sex symbol, and how is it that she's all these other things?
How is it she's,
you know?
Oh, I never thought about that. But yeah, she was kind of this champion for that movement.
Yeah, especially later in the 1920s. And so
she was old then too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I had, how much time do we have?
We have about 4 minutes left.
Okay. Well, I was on this, I went on a double date one time.
With an anarchist?
There's another story. Well, yeah. So I went on a double date. Not my girlfriend wasn't an anarchist, but we went on a double date with this other couple, and we started talking about politics, something, and they're talking about who they were voting for, who they voted for, and this and that. And so we get on something, and they go, well, we don't, you know, it doesn't really matter because we're anarchists and this and that. And I'm like, what? So it'd be me being the history person, knowing everything about anarchy and what it means. I was like, you're not really anarchist, like you don't really. So, and I was like, the fact that you even voted tells me that you're not an anarchist.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
So then they were talking about that, and so the girl was talking about, I was like, well, you know, what do you do for a living? And she's like, oh, I'm a civil engineer, I work for the city. And I was like, oh, okay, so city government? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, you're a regular Emma Goldman, aren't you? And then,
did she get it?
No, because I had just finished a class about this time period. So she was like, she looked at me all weird. And
so did she say, I'm not Jewish?
So my girlfriend kicked me to make me stop. So I was like, all right, I'll just leave it at that. So then we're talking about something else. And then she voted about something, or she's talking about what she voted on again. And so I said, you know, there's a saying that if voting changed anything, they would make it illegal. And then she's like, oh, it's so true. Like, that's so true. She's like, who said that? And I was like, well, the really famous anarchist Emma Goldman. The one that I mentioned earlier. Oh, and she's like, oh, I should read some of her stuff. And I'm like, yeah, as an anarchist, you probably should.
Does she have a Twitter feed?
Yeah, I know.
No, she'd be dead.
So, I don't know. It's, anarchy to me is just so ridiculous. But
wow.
Right.
So, yeah, good story.
That is a good story.
I've never met an
like
anarchist. I'm on a double date with them.
I know, 2 anarchists. And they're not real, obviously.
No,
they're just
they got the shirt with the A on it and the Che shirt.
Put it on their Facebook.
The Che shirt, yeah, exactly.
You got a white Che shirt. So kind of wrapping things up, we're almost out of time here. I would say if you're into history, this is definitely a good book to read. If you're kind of into cool assassination plots, also a good book to read. If you're looking for a fun, easy read, short.
It's short. But it's a smooth narrative. It's like a good story. Like, it's not like in most history books where it's really deep and difficult.
For history, it's very, very easy read. I would say, if you're looking for something fun, watch our Chappelle Show one. That's a fun, good read. This is a little more historical, deep. But yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll be back more soon.